Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong says Singapore must brace itself for a very different future, where countries are more competitive, companies go bust, and jobs disappear. That's as the country's open economy is battered from faltering global trade and travel, which won't roll back anytime soon. Speaking in a first of a series of national broadcasts starting today, Mr. Lee warned that the next few years will be a disruptive and difficult time for Singapore. But he believes it has what it takes to come out stronger.
The situation has stabilized.
Kicking off a series of national broadcasts on what a post-COVID-19 future looks like for Singapore. Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong says the country has made good progress fighting the pandemic and keeping fatalities at one of the lowest globally. But even as the country reopens, COVID-19 will remain a problem for a long time yet, and Singaporeans must learn to live with it. Beyond the health implications, COVID-19 has hit the economy hard as well. And though Singapore can fund support measures from its past reserves and not have to borrow, Mr. Lee said it's hard to sustain this level of spending.
These measures cannot shield us from the tectonic shifts taking place in the global economy. Singapore depends heavily on international trade and investments. These were already slowing down before COVID-19. Now, this slowdown will happen faster and go further.
This national broadcast comes as Singapore heads for its worst recession since independence, with the economy projected to shrink by between 4 and 7%. Mr. Lee says Singapore will not return to the open and connected global economy anytime soon, given the restricted flow of people and rising protectionism. Just looking at the world now, countries are striving to become less dependent on others, especially for essential goods and services. Mr. Lee says this will have severe implications, particularly so for an open and trade-reliant economy like Singapore.
Now, we have to prepare for a very different future. Companies, big and small, will be hit hard. Some industries will be permanently changed. Many will have to reinvent themselves to survive. Workers, too, will feel the pain. Retrenchments and unemployment will go up. Some jobs will disappear and will not come back. Workers will have to learn new skills to stay employed. The next few years will be a disruptive and difficult time for all of us.
Still, he says Singapore has what it takes to overcome the crisis. It has an international reputation as a trade and investment hub. Long-term plans to transform the economy and recent measures to protect jobs have also given it an edge. Still, risks remain in and out of Singapore. For instance, worsening US-China relations make it harder for countries to stay on side with both powers.
It will be a more dangerous world for a small country like Singapore. We must ensure our security and protect and advance our interests when dealing with other countries, big and small. We must also work with like-minded countries to support free trade and multilateralism and enhance our voice and influence in the world.
Closer to home, Mr. Lee said the government's social compact with Singaporeans must be strengthened. And that includes thinking about how to improve social safety nets. Difficult decisions on priorities, resources and budgets will have to be taken, but Mr. Lee says what doesn't change are the guiding values. That means giving every Singaporean equal opportunities and helping those who fall down get up stronger. But a so-called final ingredient for whether the country succeeds and emerges stronger is how united and resilient its people are when severely tested. He recounted how Singapore was born in crisis, with past generations meeting challenges head-on to bring the country to where it is today.
Now, at another hinge in our history, it is our turn to face the crisis of a generation. The choices that we make now will define who we are as a people and what values and ideals we pass on to future generations. Confronting adversity, do we yield to anger, fear, and bitterness? Or will we be true to ourselves, stand firm, make tough choices, and continue to trust and depend on one another?
He pointed to the acts of solidarity and kindness of many during the crisis, such as taking care of migrant workers and the more vulnerable.
This is why I believe we can continue to be exceptional. A fair and just society where everyone can chase their dreams. My cabinet team, with the support of the whole public service, will do our best to lead us towards this enduring vision of what Singapore can be. We need every one of you to work with us. Together, let us take Singapore safely through this crisis and make the Singapore spirit flourish in the world.